welcome back, everybody. Before I get stuck into this probably long video, so sit back and enjoy, I'll just say that this is probably a good thing that Rudy is leaving the game, especially the reasons he stated. And as much as I love Rudy, I think overall this would be a net positive. But my answer or feelings are more nuanced than that, so I'm going to open a whole bunch more of Everfest First Ed and talk about it. If you're not familiar with the news, Rudy from Alpha Investments, who has basically been credited by James White himself for helping save the company when it was struggling in the early days and pretty much putting Flesh and Blood on the map, who is definitely one of LSS's first large and public supporters, has come out and said that he's basically going to exit Fab. On its own, that headline sounds pretty daunting, but if you watch the video, which is Rudy's last video, it says this is a depressing video, something, that's the title. You will quickly note that his reasoning was, well, it was not really his choice. LSS had contacted him and said, hey, we think you're selling boxes too cheap to your patrons, so if we're going to continue our relationship, you need to put your pricing up. That's the summary in Rudy's words. I'm summarizing Rudy's words, but you can watch the video yourself. I'll link it below. Again, if you're not familiar, if you're a Rudy or Alpha Investments patron, you pay monthly and he will sell sealed product to you. In the Flesh and Blood world, that means every set so far he's had usually a unique playmat, a extended art Rainbow Fall promo that's exclusive to him, plus you get a case of product or whatever it may be. In the recent past, he has had a Cold Fall Legendary attached to his patron. He had a card called Rudy Gemkeeper, which is a non-legal UPF hero, which we'll get into in a bit. But basically, they're printing the legendary kit for that hero, more or less, which is very unique, and it's all Cold Fall Legendary stuff, so very, very cool. I think maybe not all Cold Fall Legendary. They had the Diamond Cold Fall token, but these the only way to get these unique Rudy-themed cards was through his patron. So more or less, they've told him, you want to keep this going, you need to be selling your product at more than you are, and I believe he's been selling under the minimum advertised pricing, which, or maybe he's not, I'm not sure, but my understanding is that he has been, and I guess LSS just want that to stop. My thoughts. I love Rudy. I've met him a couple of times in person, and I'm a big fan. I wouldn't be playing Fab if it wasn't for his videos, so take that as you may. But my opinion on this particular matter is, I've always been frustrated that some of the early adopters, like Rudy, like Team Covenant, Channel Fireball for a while, SCG, it's nice, they get this special treatment where, and it's very specific region-based special treatment at the moment, where in the US you can order from a whole bunch of suppliers and get cheap product that comes with a unique promo, so it basically offsets the price of your cases on release. And a lot of those promos actually sell very, very well when they come out. In some cases, they're worth 20-30% of the sealed product you're buying, and it really lifts or alleviates the cost of the cases you're buying. Now, I think the difference, for instance, between that and Taiwan, Fable, where the distributor in Taiwan, who also get unique promos, is they don't usually just send them out when you buy boxes. They require you to play the game. While companies like Team Covenant, Alpha Investments, particularly, they're not that they're not active in promoting the game, but they're not, their job's not to promote tournaments. They simply just need you to buy product from them and you get the promo. And I think that's done, and why I'm sort of glad this is happening and why it's public and why I want to talk about it. What's happening with companies like Alpha Investments is people are buying let's say, just for the sake of it, a $200 bundle which for let's say 2 boxes, as an example, and $200, 2 boxes, and a promo and a playmat. But then because they got a promo and a playmat, the bundle and the promo and the playmat, let's say, sell for $80. The bundles only cost them $120, which is well under the map of the product. So what people do is they buy those bundles and then either immediately flip the sealed or they immediately flip the promos, and they end up with cheap product. Cheaper than even some shops can maybe get them at distribution. Now, I know this is hard because you're delving into the secondary market and not everything is the pricing fluctuates, and sometimes the promo is crap and doesn't sell, and sometimes it's very good and does. But I think LSS is slowly coming around to the thought of, if someone's going to receive all this extra promotional product, they need to be actively promoting the play space of the game, or at least need to help the prices of the boxes in turn, which is selling at MAP at minimum. I'm rambling a bit, but in layman's terms, if you're going to give something away with your boxes that we're giving you for free, you should probably sell it for a higher price, or at least as high as every other shop in the country has to sell them for or tries to sell them for. And if you're someone who's getting... And by the way, I need to be clear here. Alpha Investments, I believe, was getting product directly from LSS. They don't even go through an American distributor. So it's very likely the profit margins for Rudy were much higher than... Well, no, not likely. 100% Rudy makes more margin, or can make more margin, on selling his product than any local store. I'm going to leave you with a... Not leave you, but I'm going to open up this video with a question. And it will be very different if you consider yourself a player or a collector. But please, I'm aware most people are both. I'm not trying to trick you here, but I need you to think of what you are more of before you answer this. But do you think LSS should focus more on the players or more on the collectors? And the reason I'm saying it that way, I want to be clear. I don't want people answering that they should focus on both. I'm saying, should they focus more on one or the other? Because I think it's clear that LSS's direction right now, and has been for a while, since Fab 2.0, I'm opening Everfest first. They didn't even release the unlimited version because they did Fab 2.0 and there was no need for unlimited, and they haven't released this set. I just want one answer. What do you think is more important? Because I think LSS are very hyper-focused on the competitive play part of this game, which in turn is very, very focused on the judge program and making that, supporting that correctly, both with training and content, but also with the promos that you're able to get as a judge. That they've blown that out of the park in value, whether you agree with it or not. That we can all agree the EV for being a judge has gone up since the inception of the Flesh and Blood organized play scene. So I'm curious at what people think. Now, I believe, and again, I'm probably more on the player side than collector at the moment, even though I'm both, is that you cannot pander or cater to the collector too much anymore. I think that era is gone. I think the 2019, 2020 era of everything was quadrupling in value and buying sealed and holding it was king. I think Rudy himself acknowledges that era is dead, but very much as a company like LSS, I don't think are interested in making any products that automatically make people money if they get their hands on sealed. I don't think they're... Ooh, that's a nice card. For Rolling Thunder. I don't think they want free tendies. I don't think they want flipping and scalping. I think they are aiming to focus on players getting cards, and if they're adding promotional material to make sure it's only being given out if people are and players are buying product and playing the game. That's, I think, why you're seeing a lot more sealed events, even if people complain about it, and why you're seeing them basically put the squeeze on someone as big of an influence as Rudy to, hey, if you're not willing to keep your prices up, we won't be willing to also give you all this promotional material and ability to basically make more margin than other places. I think that's good. I've always had a weird, and I never really directly said this to James, but that's also because I wasn't sure where he stood, although that might be clearer now with Rudy's announcement. So this is maybe something I'll be asking him in New Zealand when I see him. Side note, if you have questions for James, feel free to ask them below. As long as they haven't been asked before, I will try and ask them. If it has been asked before in another interview, I'll basically be ignoring you, because if you want to ask questions during an interview like that, I'd like you to have at least consumed the other interviews and researched the topic before asking. But back to the topic, something I want to ask James, because the super mafia loyalty that, when I say mafia, it's a term Rudy's used before to describe James's loyalty. But the loyalty James has shown for like OG supporters of the game, I believe has sometimes had an adverse effect on the community and the game versus just a positive one. I think Rudy overall is a positive, net positive. But if you look into the Monarch stuff and what Rudy sold it for, if you look at the Channel Fireball thing, who were very early adopters of Fab and how that went, I think you'll find that there's a pattern of these companies are basically making a whole bunch of money off Fab and then not necessarily supporting the game as well as they could as a like ambassador or evangelist for that game when the money's not as good. And I think there's a really good example of them putting policies in that serve the player base and the LGS versus just blindly supporting people just because they were there first. By the way, I'm saying all this as someone who's from Australia, who we don't get any unique support for the game, even though we have someone like Hayden Dale, who runs a very large and respected content creation channel for the game. They don't get any special promos. They don't, other than content creator ones. Our distributor, Let's Play Games, LPG, who are the exclusive distributor for Flesh and Blood, have no visible interest in the game. They don't really do much to support the game aside from the minimums. I don't think anyone in Australia who's a player or a shop would disagree with me on that, except for maybe LPG themselves. I have a working relationship with them. I buy from them. I just don't feel like that's a high priority for them to see Fab grow. And they're very anti-helping if you ever need help with the Flesh and Blood scene. It's just not, they're not willing to have a conversation about it. They have an exclusive on it, and I think we will never see, I don't think they're ever going to push LSS to give Australia a unique promo. I don't think they're ever going to push LSS for better pricing. I don't think they even pay attention to any part of the game aside from the logistics of supplying the product which they're contracted to do, and they make the money and they move on. I don't think like what I'm saying is it'd be easy for me to talk crap about my region and explain that I don't care if people like Rudy are out because maybe we will get special access to promos. We've never had special access to promos, ever. Mighty Ape is New Zealand based. No one in Australia wants to pay shipping from Mighty Ape, so we don't really use them. Even though they're good for board games and stuff, I don't think anyone in Australia really buys for them exclusively, other than at the time to get the Go Bananas promo. And the Asia Pacific promos, one is purely Singapore based. Like even the art is the Merlion, and basically there's nothing really Aussie themed, or even though Australia was one of the first regions to support the game, we are very much small fish and get overlooked for that. It sucks, but I can understand why LSS won't maybe spend the resources to do that in Australia with the player base we have. But I've also never understood why they would so strongly support companies like Alpha Investment. Again, as much as I love Rudy as a person, and I'm still a fan, and hope that he'll be involved in the game and do box breaks and stuff regardless of his position with them, I still think it's a bad idea to support that business model over your grassroots stuff. Also, I think the writing's been on the wall for Alpha Investments for a while, if you've been paying attention, because the last bundles, the latest bundles, the Diamond Hands, the Diamond Token, the Pink Visor, as cool as they've been, the prices that the bundles demanded and the ability to resell those cards is like, it's very low value. I don't think that it's successfully landed. I think part of it might be behind the scenes that I don't think Rudy would be willing to order the size of Flesh and Blood order that he has been ordering in the past, based on just what I've seen and what these promos are going for. They're not going for much. They're very hard to sell, is what I'm saying. So I don't think his bundles have been very successful. In turn, he's probably tried to reduce his order, and he's probably been told that, hey, look, we're definitely not going to reduce your orders and supply you all these expensive promos that are exclusive to you if you can't push the product and at least attempt to keep the market fair and the price of the box is high. Overall, I don't know what the long-term effects of something like this are, even though I really don't think it'll have a material effect. I think 99% of the Flesh and Blood community plays the game. I think the small group that might care about investing in the game and flipping sealed for profit or flipping some promos for profit, even if they left the game, I don't think you'll see a material difference in the day-to-day market for Flesh and Blood. There's going to be some loud voices talking about this, but I really don't think any of this really matters for the long-term health of the game whatsoever, because the game's success doesn't seem to ride on that anymore. It hasn't for a while. I think it has a lot more to do with players and the competitive scene and the health of the meta. You can listen to Stackswell, you can listen to anyone that talks about the market of Flesh and Blood. It really has much more to do, including the high-end collectible market, has much more to do with the meta than the collectible side. I think cards that get played, they're super rare alpha versions in foil sell well, and cards that don't see play just don't see much market movement. It's very, very simple. Also, as a shop, I'll give you some insight. I know of, my own shop has grown maybe 30-35% month on month this year. Sorry, not month on month, our running monthly total. So over the year, we've probably gone up by 30-35%. So there's definitely growth in the singles market that I'm aware of. I know of a 300,000 USD sale for Flesh and Blood that happened in the last few weeks. Basically, one vendor in a region that's had Fab for a while selling to a vendor a region that is new to Fab. Like, to date, I've never heard of a $300,000 order of anything Fab related, including when Hearts were selling for $20,000-$30,000. So this is probably the biggest Fab movement ever. Just happened into today's market. So I don't think there's any sort of, I don't think there's going to be a serious repercussion with Rudy coming or leaving the game. I really don't think he's going to stop supporting the game altogether. I think he's maybe going to stop ordering product the way he was, where he's getting special promos, etc. I think that's what the falling out might be about, is what he's ordering and how much for, and what he's selling it for, and how many promos he gets, all mixed into a conversation. He didn't put that much detail in, but I imagine the conversation is deeper than just... he made some comments about the Fab market. He even talked about the Monarch debacle that he was somewhat involved in, but I think it's a bit more complicated than meets the eye. And when I say complicated, I'm talking like high-level business complicated, like multi-million-dollar a year business between him and LSS, who he buys from directly, saying that if you're going to buy from us directly, you must do these things, and he's just not willing to take that kind of risk. And that's because I think the Fab sphere, the goalposts have moved, and I don't think that's an area Rudy plays in. Rudy couldn't tell you the meta of any game. I'm not saying this to be snarky. I don't think he has time to play any of the games in any serious way. I don't think he watches Worlds for Fab, let alone Weiss, let alone Pokemon. He does a lot more in the flipping collectible space. That's what he's known for. That's what he does. Speculative sealed is what he does. And in Magic, he's obviously known for speculative high-end singles, but a game like Fab, I don't think he would be able to look at the playable cards in heavy hitters and tell you what's good and what's not. He would need that info from someone else. And I think that navigating the Fab market it's not that easy. It's not that easy. Funnily enough, heavy hitters, like the new heroes they've revealed, the fact that, not many people are really giving credit here, but LSS have just invited and paid for a whole bunch of players to go to Queenstown to play the new set and make content about it and promote it. Like, that's a lot of money they're spending on marketing the set, and it's players that they're focusing on. That's who are getting sent. Content creators that promote the game. They clearly have a very good relationship with Tellurian Community College. Speaking of, though, I'll say this too. Like, for instance, Tellurian Professor did the spoiler for the new KO, and if you watch the video, like, there's like ads running through it, and it's not something that he would personally be passionate about. It doesn't feel. I remember this happened with another prominent YouTube channel in the... Oh, this is a nice hit. Foil, this rounds on me. You had someone spoil a really high-end card in Dynasty. And it was like, instead of being spoiled like where the focus was on the Fab card, this was just done as like a random unboxing with a whole bunch of slabs and Weiss Schwartz and stuff. And I starting to get the gist that some of these really OG supporters of the game, because the goalposts have moved and the collectible market or the high-end collectible market in Fab is stagnant or shrinking, and the player base is growing and the competitive scene is where LSS focuses on, they're not really putting in the effort to really push the game or even to change their strategies when it comes to making content or what products to buy or spec into. And in general, it feels like if a set comes out and it's not selling as well, and their money is made from selling a whole bunch of sealed product, it's FUD for them because they don't really grasp that. Like Dust Till Dawn as a good example, that set landed. It didn't get received well, clearly. You and I, as a player, would know why, because it revealed some... Sorry, I gotta get some more packs. So, Dust Till Dawn came out and showed some heroes that maybe weren't fully tweaked or balanced, mainly the new Prism. Maybe missing key pieces of equipment, and fell a little flat. And that's something that LSS has taken a little while to rectify, which they have by printing the new Luminaris. But if I'm in Rudy's shoes, and I'm not saying that this is what happened, but I'm saying as an example, I don't think Rudy would have a good grasp on exactly why that set flopped, and then exactly why it's not a bad set whatsoever. It just needed time for LSS to come back around and introduce the balance changes needed, which they did. I made a video recently. It can be, you play a certain hero, it's not meta, you get a bit gripey about the game. It's okay to switch off and miss a couple of sets or miss a ProQuest season. Like, that's all fine, but talking publicly negatively about the game is something I'm not too keen on doing, because it's not the game as a whole, it's my interaction with the game that I don't like, and the game as a whole seems to be doing great, so I'm probably in the minority. There are sets that come out like Bright Lights that have not fully seen... Like, that's just the mech set that introduced... and that had a much quicker half-life. Like, what happened with Bright Lights is it came out and people talked crap about the heroes being weak, and then Tom Dowling goes on a nearly undefeated streak, and then suddenly Twin Drive doubles or triples in price. And that's, again, this is a player's market. There's very good money to be made in Fab as a flipper. But if you're going to be a spec investor in Fab, whether sealed or in singles, you need a good grasp on what's going on in the game. and you need to be able to see and read into the information, like, hey, what's recently gone on Living Legend? Okay, does that mean, like, for instance, when Prism LL'd, those cards dropped. Some of the most expensive decks in the game became quite affordable. I know a couple of friends that immediately blinged out their Prism deck because they're like, I couldn't afford it before, I can afford it now. I'll play it in the LL format. That was really good thinking, because now those same cards, especially all the EA Heralds, have gone back up in price. Why? Because New Prism plays them as well. That's what I'm talking about. You need to know a little bit more about the game to play in this space, to make money in this space, to make content about this space. And I think you're seeing, and I think all of this started with Louis and is slowly being shown. People that are in the game for the wrong reasons or just haven't adapted. They came in as a collector, or primarily as a collector, and either failed at it or are finding it hard to adapt to the scene that's rapidly changed. And Fab has rapidly changed how it went from, alpha boxes for 6,000 USD, hearts for 20,000 USD, and it's now alpha boxes for 2,500 USD, and hearts are selling for 6 or 7. To my knowledge, this isn't like an official market update post. I don't do those, as you know, but I've seen them move hands for 6,000 USD. That's a different landscape. But on the flip side, Goldfoil Crown of Providences are selling for 16,000 USD. 16,000 USD. They were selling for 6,000 or 5,000 USD months before the calling in Barcelona. Months before. The collectible side is not dead. Goldfoil tunics are 25,000. It's just, this is very nice. I don't know if KO, the new KO, is playing this, but maybe. Do you get what I'm saying? The money's not dead in the game. There's actually, I only meet more and more whales every day that goes past in DMs, in referrals, people telling me, hey, this person is looking for this person wants to spend that. I just told you, there's a whale that just spent 300,000 USD on a Fab collection. Biggest I know of in history of Fab. If you know of a bigger one, let me know. That's crazy. That hasn't happened before. To my knowledge, it hasn't happened before. So the game's not dying, but it's shifting. And it's interesting to see what you guys think as a player or as a collector, or whatever you identify as more strongly. Do you agree with LSS making sure that this is very much turning into a player meta-driven game versus and supporting their judges the same way? Like printing Coldfoil Art of War is contentious, but if you're a judge, you're happy. And if you're a collector, maybe you're happy too, because there's just an extra thing for you to collect. But if you're a speculative investor who bought 20 copies of Rainbow Foil Alpha ones, and now your card, you're thinking your card is now lost value. I'm curious how people are experiencing these winds of change. Rudy just happens to be one of the larger names that's experiencing the change. And maybe Rudy's experiencing it with more of a delay than most of us, because like I said, his business dealings with LSS are probably in the multiple 7 figures every year. So that happens slower. He just more or less engages with LSS in a big way 3 or 4 times a year with a new set. He does his spoiler, he does the new, he does a Patreon post with his new playmat and the promo you can get, which is usually a full art version of his spoiler, and talks a bit about the market, and then moves on to do what he's always been doing. And I like I said, I will always consume his content as something that I was watching Rudy before he did Flesh and Blood, and I don't think anyone watches Rudy for his thoughts on a single game anymore. I think it's more of a lifestyle and vlog channel than it is just a card channel, because I think most of us just fans of him and his thought process. But yeah, that's my ramblings and thoughts on it. In summary, I don't think there's going to be any material effect on the game, long term anyway. Short term there might be. I don't think the business model of just selling sealed product with some promos promotes the game growth at all. I think the only people that buy that are scalping type customers that hope to flip it for a quick buck. I don't think anyone's holding on to those super long term, because really with the new products you can't. I don't think there's money in holding on to them long term. I think people have learned that now. But I think in the actual long term, products will get scarcer. Like Everfest First Ed is not a reprintable set. I think in time it'll have more value than it does now. It's still, I'm opening so much of it because we cannot hold on to the Everfest Majestics. They all sell, and they sell really quickly, because I don't think this product was received super well, and I don't think it's been opened in any large way. And maybe people are only catching on to that now. You know, some of the best Majestics in the game and the most meta-defining or build-defining cards are in this set for a lot of heroes. Like, you will not catch a Rune Blade not playing. It's weird to get that double foil in a row. You won't catch a Rune Blade not playing Swarming Gloomveil. Like, it'd be weird. A whole bunch of the Kasai cards, even for the new Kasai, are going to come from this set. This is nice. KO's specialization is in here, which is going to be really important if you're playing anything that rolls the dice on the new KO. Crown of Reflection still played. I mean, what I would love to see happen is that LSS maybe do show some love to the smaller regions. I've heard rumors in Hong Kong that there's so many stores wanting product that they're limiting them to like 12 cases a shop, which, you know, is not a lot of product. There's regions like Philippines who had like 30-something people in an armory and 70-something people at a skirmish. It'd be cool if they got a promo, if they got some special attention or recognition from LSS. Not that they get none. I mean, the official page congratulated them, but like Rudy and a whole bunch of other US-based companies, because of the larger player base there, I'm assuming, get a whole bunch more promotional material and sort of free value for their players, which don't occur in the rest of the world. Taiwan and Singapore for a long time have been able to get access to some cool promos, like the Fate Foreseen promo, now the Merlion Sigil promo. It'd be cool to see more. It'd be very cool to see more. I hope they put those resources and efforts into other regions and more grassroots building places than they have been in the past with. But like I said, all love to Rudy, especially if you watch this, Rudy, you know, hopefully you come to LA. Hopefully we still see him around. But yeah, this is just how the game's changing, and it's growing, and I'm excited for it, even though my personal collection's probably lost some value over time. The game's becoming more fun. This new set's super exciting. I'll be going to Queenstown 100%. And it'll be interesting to see. And I'm very interested in what you guys have to say below about my thoughts and this video and Rudy leaving, and what you think as a player or as a collector. Someone like Rudy leaving because he can't charge under map for boxes, basically. And what do you think that means? And if that policy is maybe going to trickle to other places in Fab, and will it actually help LGSs, or is it just posturing and maybe overall negative because so many people only buy from Rudy, and if they can't get it there, they just won't buy the product whatsoever. But yeah, be very curious to know. So comment below. Leave a like, subscribe. I'm like 22 subs away from 4,000, which would be great this year. And the next video should be a yearly recap, and the video after that hopefully is a James White interview from New Zealand. And maybe something in the middle there, I don't know. I don't really plan this stuff out. But thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Cheers.